Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation that sets out to show that there were very real links between the Paris Peace Treaties as a whole, but the Treaty of Versailles in particular, and World War II. In Mein Kampf, Hitler called the Treaty of Versailles the greatest villainy of the century. And 10 years later, in his first speech as Chancellor in 1933, he told the assembled Reichstag that all Germany's problems were caused by the treaty. He was not a fan. And that the treaty was a compromise, it left Germany embittered, but not dismembered or as weakened as France had wanted. It meant Germany had the resources to recover, and Germany was indeed able to recover. So the key question for this presentation is, how far does World War I and the Paris Peace Treaties link to the events that led to World War II? Consider the struggles the League of Nations had in trying to uphold the treaties and keep the peace. How far was the aggression that the League tried to deal with linked to the treaties? There were border disputes aplenty in the 1920s, and you should link your knowledge of other topics, when it's appropriate to do so, in answering any exam question. But we need look no further than the way Germany was treated by the League in the 1920s. Upper Silesia was one of Europe's richest coal mining and industrial regions, so it mattered to both Poland and Germany when it came to who should incorporate it, but particularly Germany, as the region was mostly populated by Germans, and Germany had also lost the Saar to France for at least 15 years. In the plebiscite of 1921 that the League oversaw, a majority voted to remain German, only for Poles in the region to rise up in protest and for the League to make concessions dividing the region between the two countries. The Polish segment, although only a third of the region as a whole, included half the population, which meant a considerable number of Germans, and it included most of the mines and close to half of the steel mills. Germany, understandably, was left feeling bitter about the outcome. But worse would come in 1923, when, with Germany defaulting on only its second reparations payment, France and Belgium, and France was a permanent member of the League's Council, invaded the Ruhr in order to take what was owed them in materials, mostly coal, rather than money. Germany was again humiliated and would face the chaos of hyperinflation before the matter was resolved. How was the League looking after German interests and German territorial integrity? And we should remember that it was the Treaty of Versailles that had imposed reparations on Germany, also stripping it of the ability to defend its territorial integrity, whilst not letting it join the League. Then, in the 1930s, the League, and don't forget that it was written into all the peace treaties, failed to prevent aggression succeeding in both Manchuria and in Abyssinia. That Japan, another permanent member of the League's Council, had succeeded in occupying Manchuria was noted by both Mussolini and Hitler, even though Hitler was not yet in power for most of the crisis. While Abyssinia, invaded by Italy, yet another member, permanent member of the League's Council, not only gave Hitler the opportunity to remilitarize the Rhineland while the League was distracted, an act forbidden by the Treaty of Versailles, but Abyssinia was to deal the fatal blow to the League, ending its credibility once and for all. And if we look back to the Paris Peace Conference, we note that both Italy and Japan had been disappointed by the peace negotiations. Italy referred to the mutilated victory to highlight that it thought it should have gained more territory than it did, while Japan felt with justification that it had been treated as racially inferior. And the League also failed to get countries to disarm, and with Germany and the military restrictions forced on it by the Treaty of Versailles at the centre of the argument. Should countries disarm to Germany's level, or should Germany be allowed to rearm up to the level of other countries? Or should there be a bit of both so that parity is reached? And you should also make the link to the occupation of the German Ruhr. After all, Germany was not able to defend itself. That no satisfactory agreement could be reached gave Hitler the excuse to withdraw Germany, not only from the conference, but from the League altogether. It was what he wanted. He was a nationalist and wanted to make Germany a great power again. He didn't want to be tied by an international body like the League. But to what extent were Hitler's actions linked to the Treaty of Versailles? We've just looked at the link to rearmament, and Hitler would openly rearm and reintroduce conscription. He would also remilitarize the Rhineland. His excuse was the treaty between France and the Soviet Union, but the occupation of the Ruhr would have provided a stronger reason. And of course, we have already noted the link to Mussolini's invasion of Abyssinia too. Then there was the Anschluss, the seizing of Memel, and indeed the invasion of Poland, all with clear and direct links to the Treaty of Versailles. And you can include the Sudetenland in this too, as Hitler's argument was that as the Sudetenland was populated by Germans, it was a matter of self-determination. But something else to consider is the fact that the peace treaties as a whole actually helped Hitler by creating relatively weak nations on Germany's borders. Then there were Mussolini's increasingly close ties with Hitler. We've noted that Italy had been left bitterly disappointed by the Paris Peace Conference. Well, Mussolini was determined to make Italy a great power, one that was respected, even feared. And that gives us a link to Corfu in 1923, to Abyssinia in 1935, and to Italian involvement in the Spanish Civil War in 1936. It also helps explain the Rome-Berlin Axis in 1936, the Anti-Comintern Pact, which Italy joined in 1937, and the Pact of Steel in 1939. Appeasement also has its links to the Treaty of Versailles. Britain very quickly came to the conclusion that the treaty had been unfair on Germany. It left Germany unable to defend itself. German people had not been given the right to self-determination that other people had, and reparations seemed to place an unreasonable burden on the German people, who were not themselves responsible for the war. So Hitler rearms. Well, he has the right to defend Germany. Hitler remilitarizes the Rhineland. He's only going in to his own backyard. Hitler completes the Anschluss. It was a matter of self-determination. Hitler wants to incorporate the Sudeten Germans into the Reich. Again, it was a matter of self-determination. And so we come to a handshake and the Nazi-Soviet Pact. Russia's decision to cut a deal with Hitler links back to appeasement, and so to the Treaty of Versailles. Not only had Stalin been repeatedly rebuffed as he tried to forge an anti-fascist alliance with Britain and France, but by giving Hitler everything he wanted, Russia was left feeling that Britain wanted Hitler to attack the Soviet Union. But we should also go to the secret clauses in the pact, and then go back to the Treaty of Versailles. For in the secret clauses, Russia and Germany agreed to divide Poland between them, and Poland was created by the Treaty of Versailles. The Soviet Union would also take Finland, and the Baltic states of Estonia and Latvia, though when they invaded, they took Lithuania as well. Whilst in the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was cut in two when the Polish corridor was created, and Russia lost not only Finland, but all three Baltic states. What's more, a rejuvenated Poland in a war with Russia in which they ended up the winners, in the Treaty of Riga of 1921 made substantial gains at Russia's expense in western Ukraine and Belorussia, today's Belarus. So you can see that there is plenty of evidence to support the viewpoint that the Treaty of Versailles should be seen as a major factor in any explanation of World War II. But of course, there are other arguments to consider. There would not have been a war without Hitler, and appeasement was also a major factor, and they will be the subject of other presentations. But for now, I do thank you for listening. I hope your studies are going really well, but if at any point you feel you might benefit from tutorials, get in touch with me at historymadeeasier@gmail.com and I'll see if I have a slot available. Cheers.